Rest in peace to Rudy Ray Moore and Dolomite. Rest in peace. There was this couple that was traveling across the country, and they decided they got tired. They was like, "We're gonna stay in this little rinky-dink motel or whatnot." So the husband said, "Baby, you know what? Go take your fine ass in there. Go to that bed. You go lay down. I'll take care of the luggage and all that shit." And she say, "For real?" He said, "Yeah, baby, go lay down. Lay your fine ass down." She said, "Okay." So she go lay down in the bed while the husband gone. Next thing you know, right when she started to close her eyes, this train come through. Rock off the bed. That motherfucker so close it just rock off the bed. Oh, she big mad. She go down there to the office. Sir. I was laying in my bed and a train came by and it knocked me off and I'm furious. The clerk says, "Ma'am, I've been working here for 35 years. I ain't never heard of no shit like that." She said, "Oh, you don't believe me?" He said, "Ma'am, I just cannot." So she says, "Well, come on, I'll show you." So she takes him up to the room. And she said, "I was laying there. Lay down." The man lays down the spot she was, and she lays down next to him. She said, "I was laying down there, and the train came, and it shook me off the bed." Next thing you know, while she's doing the rocket motion, showing what the train did to her, the husband comes in the room. He said, "What the fuck you doing in bed with my goddamn wife?" The clerk says, "Believe it or not, sir, I'm waiting on a train." Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. We're back. They told you I wasn't coming back. April Fools. They lied to you. And it's been such a while. I mean, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without some IIP shit to step to. I'm glad to be talking to y'all, and I'm glad y'all listening. You still smell different when you're listening. Man, today we're going to talk about some shit. Ocean versus bathtub. We're going to talk about some, oh God. You know what? We're going to cut this intro short. I'm ready to get into it. Welcome back. Welcome back. Mango misses you. Hey, those people, American descendants of slaves, descendants of involuntary immigrants, listen to me. If a diamond falls into a pile of shit, it's still a diamond. But if that pile of shit makes it to heaven, it's still worthless. I'm telling you this to tell you, you might fall on hard times, but remember, you still a fucking diamond. You still great. You still are immaculate. So don't let what you fall into dictate you. The worst thing in the world is for that diamond to start thinking it's a piece of shit. No. You still a fucking diamond. The presumptions of nine. The presumptions of nine, so the eruptions of time sometimes find the eradication of vines, connecting hearts and wines to consumptions of lies and the corruptions of minds that find themselves blind. To the eruption of time with the presumption of mind, when winds unwind and progressions decline, conclusions incline. So beg thee unkind. The addiction of mine, where my passion you find has left me behind. Now stabbed from behind and now it's a nine. Broken windows, new blinds on the mortgage thee sign. Infinity is mine. Backyard grass grows from the suns as it shines, but all the fruit's dead because it shines all the time. With consumption of lies, the hearts turn to wine. Eradication of nines gave birth to one time. While the presumption of vines made corruption crime, as dead bury dead and alive save lives, but through the magic of nine, or magic of time, the rock becomes sand, and that sand becomes I. So check this out, man. I'm watching just a short while ago, watching Intervention. Fucking, I love to hate that show. Hate to love it, I love to hate it. Addiction is a real thing, people. But it was an episode in Vegas, and like, you know, there's people that live in the fucking underground tunnels and shit. And like, the only thing I can think is like, bro, yo, these people look like they fucking stink. Like, that underground tunnel has a fucking smell putrid. But, yeah, these people have addictions or whatever else hard falls on them, and they live in these underground fucking tunnels. And shit, it's a real thing, man. You ever get a chance? As I always say, look it up. But yeah, addiction is a fucking animal. So like, if you have addiction, it's crazy. I seen it start off in multiple different ways, man. I got homeboys that turn to that shit and like they're stuck on it, especially. So I come up in a prime age, man, because crack is lingering, coke's out there. I'm around growing up. I'm around the X phase, and the X turns to the MDMA, and that shit turned into fucking K2 and all that shit, and then that turns into Flocka, and it's just all these fucking, it's prime real estate for drugs. So shit's crazy. And you know what's funny? The thing with addiction, it's not funny, but what's ironic is a lot of these people start off with these drugs, and it's fun, it's partying, it's a party drug, but then their actions on the drugs, they start fucking up, and then they fall they fall into a state of depression because they're letting people down around them, and then the drug turns from fucking a party drug to an easier depression drug. And then it's like you're at a point where, nigga, you ain't getting high, you getting low. You sucking dick for fucking fentanyl. Shit's crazy, man. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about, dealing with their family member in it, and just the pain and agony in which they go through, and dealing with somebody's drug addiction. You think the motherfuckers on drugs got it bad? You need to see the motherfuckers who love them. Like, you gotta watch your loved one go through this fucking phase, man. This shit's fucking hard. And especially with a lot of this shit, I remember back in 2011, I met this girl, and I ain't gonna give her name out, but she was a model at one time, right? And she looks fucking busted. Like, she's fucking busted. She's gone. But she was on Roxy Blues. And I don't know if y'all know about Roxy Blues, but Roxy Blues is like you shoot it up, right? It's like a time release heroin in a way. And so she didn't want track marks because she still had hope for her modeling career. What she used to do was she used to stick the needle between her toes, That's not high. That's fucking low. When you're going through different phases of like find places to hide your track marks and shoot it, like you fucking injecting heroin in your earlobes and shit. You're fucking like, it's hard to do, but you should seek help. And motherfuckers, what fuck a addict up the worst is the people who support the habits. Like, sometimes you just gotta cut motherfuckers off to save them. Like, you're like, I don't want to leave them abandoned out there. I don't want to, but no. Real talk, sometimes you abandon a motherfucker, you help them out. Because a lot of times people with their dependencies and shit, like, the one thing you notice when you look at, like, addicted people is their circle is always enabling. It's not 100%, but when I look at it, this is what I see. I see enabling, whether it's my 700-pound life or this and that. Like, if this motherfucker's so fat he can't get out of bed and none of that shit, who's buying him the 8 boxes of pizza we see on his nightstand? You know what I mean? Like, either he's ordering a shitload of delivery, which might give him some exercise from walking from his bed to the front door, or it's some weak-ass punk bitch family member that loves him, that's like, I love him so much, I'm going to go get it for him, even though I feel bad for getting it for him. Sometimes you just got to cut motherfuckers off, man. You got to cut motherfuckers off. And when you do that, it's like that saying, like, if you let a dog go and he'll come back and some shit like that, like whatever it is, but you let the dog go, and if he comes back, he's there to stay. But if you keep him captured, there's no way to know if that's your dog he's fucking captured, So, like, you sometimes you gotta let motherfuckers live. You gotta take away that dependency. When you take away that dependency, they might be alright, But if you have some form of addiction and it's fucking killing your life or whatnot, like you just feel depressed when you're doing drugs now, you should look for help. Now, if you got an addiction, because I know well-functioning crackheads, I know motherfuckers that smoke more dope than everybody who Nino Brown sold to, right? And they go to work, they pay their bills, they do this. Now, I don't really believe that drugs fuck people up. I think people's personality is already shitty a lot of times, and the drugs don't help. But I know functioning drug addicts, alcoholics, this and that. I know people that function off that shit, and they're not depressed from it. It's like a release way for them. I mean, different drugs affect people differently. You know, your drug of choice might be movies. You know, your drug of choice might be fucking alcohol. Your drug of choice might be fucking weed, crack, whatever. But what that drug does to you might not do to someone else. It's like tequila. You know, people get drunk on tequila and want to fuck, or people get drunk on tequila and want to fight. It's different substances do different things to different people. So you can't group everybody in the same category. But if you find yourself, you know, sucking dick for $5 crack rocks, you should get help if you don't like sucking dick for $5 crack rock. Like if that's your dream, like when you were like, one day I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna suck dick for $5 crack rock. Hey man, you know, shoot for the stars. If you shoot for the stars, at least you land on a cloud. But if you are not happy with where your life is, change your life circumstances. So it was brought to my attention that, you know, I gave a shout out to fat bitches, and you know, I was saying some things to help boost their self-esteem and all that good stuff. You know, again, shout out to all the fat bitches in the world. But what was brought to my attention was, you know, even saying shout outs to the fat bitches, you know, skinny bitches go through things too. So I like to take this moment to give a shout out to the skinny bitches. Like, I think my message, you know, got fucking misconstrued. Because my overall message was, you know, mental healthness. And from my perspective, the people I see suffer the most body shaming, from my perspective, is, you know, the fat bitches. And I never understood that. You know, shout out to the fat bitches. In the wintertime, it's warm, you know, and that's awesome. And they're still people, though. And you know, thinking about it, you know, I had a sister say to me, she's like, well, skinny bitches go through that too, because I went through it, and it's depressing. Well, you don't got no booty, or you ain't got no, that shit bothers you. That shit bothers your soul because people treat you a certain way. And okay, I guess for a certain extent, you know, you're right. You know, you're right. So we're going to take this time to say shout out to the skinny bitches, because not all dudes like fat bitches. Not all dudes like skinny bitches. Dudes are different, you know. And the thing about pussy in 2021, pussy's so good, even the women fucking each other. So we want to say shout out to all the bitches, all the women, all the whores, all the scallywags, no matter your shape or sizes. Greatness comes in all different packages, okay? But I'm going to give an extra shout out to the skinny bitches, because y'all felt some type of way. As fat bitches are great in the wintertime, skinny bitches are awesome in the summer. I did say that. Okay? So shout out to all the skinny bitches. Listen. The nigga who owns a means of production will always have advantages over those niggas who must sell their labor in order to make money. I'll say that shit again. And listen. The nigga who owns the means of production will always have advantages over those niggas who must sell their labor in order to make money. I'm gonna throw that back. The niggas who owns a means of production will always have the advantages over those niggas who must sell their labor in order to make money. Last time. The niggas who owns a means of production will always have advantages over those niggas who must sell their labor in order to make money. I was gonna elaborate on this. But nigga, if you don't get it, you want a ketchup bottle. You lost in the motherfucking sauce. There was his father, and his first son was born. But this motherfucker was born, and he was only a head. He didn't have nothing else. He was just a head. But the father didn't give a shit. He was like, this is my boy. I waited so long for a son. He loved this kid. And he raised this kid up until he was 21. On the kid's 21st birthday, the father said, son, let's go drink some beer. He took his son to go get his first beer, sit his head right there up there on the counter. He says, let me get a shot of beer. Well, not a shot, but let me get a mug of beer for my boy. So he gets him this beer, sets him up with a straw. The boy takes a sip of this beer. Next thing you know, pow, pow, he grew a torso. Everybody in the bar is like, oh shit, they cheering and shit, and they, oh shit. Drink. You know, cheering him on. He take another sip. Pow, he grew a right leg. Another sip. Pow, he grew a left leg. Another sip. Pow, he grew a right arm. Another sip. Pow, he grew a left arm. Another sip. Pow, he grew nuts and balls and just fucking big ass dick. And the father, you got the tears just going down his eye, and everybody cheering him. Cheering him. Well, the boy stands up for the first time ever, but his legs are wobbly, and on top of that, he's feeling a little buzz from the beer. He goes to take a step, stumbles, trips, falls all the way out the bar, lands in the middle of the street. Next thing you know, pow! Semi-truck hits him, kills him. The bartender says, man, this is the saddest shit I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this. He should have quit when he was ahead. Bear with me. I need your imagination. I want you to close your eyes and think about this. You're a well-qualified lifeguard, and you're standing on the beach. In the ocean, there's a man that cannot swim. And further inland, there's a man in a bathtub that also cannot swim. Now, this is not a trick question. There's no trick to it. Say it again. You're a qualified lifeguard. Close your eyes. You're a qualified lifeguard. And you're on a beach. And in the ocean, there's a man and he cannot swim. And further inland, on that same beach, there's a man in a bathtub full of water that too cannot swim. Now, which one do you save as a qualified lifeguard? Which one? Which life is in the most danger? Now, there is no right or wrong answer. This is based off of you. The one who's listening to me now is based off of you. Don't think about what the world would do. Don't think about what your cousin would do. Don't think about what your granny would do. Don't think about what would Jesus do. I'm talking about you. You're the qualified lifeguard. Who do you save? Or do you save none of them? You say fuck them both. Now, my answer is not your answer, and I'm not trying to make you adopt my answer. But my answer to that question is the one in the ocean. The one in the ocean. His life's in the most danger. So, I've asked this question to people for the last week or so, last couple weeks or whatnot, and I had mixed answers, believe it or not. If you had the same answer as me, it might surprise you that it was some people that said the bathtub. Save the motherfucker in the bathtub. And I got different responses from people to who they would save. And like I said, it's a personal thing. It's based on you. There's no judging you. It's based on you. For the people who said, like, I had a couple people that, well, I saved the one in the ocean. Because that motherfucker in the bathtub, he could just stand up and get out. He could save himself. He could just, da-da-da. I had some people say, well, the one in the ocean, with sharks out there. It's, just different things. And then for the different people I had say in the bathtub, they said, well, it's easier to save the one in the bathtub. I'll take the easy route. I had some people say, well, shit, if I go to save the one in the ocean, I'm not the greatest swimmer. I too can drown. The one in the bathtub, he's simpler. It's easier to help out. So I'll save at least that life. There's no wrong answer. It's like I said, it's based on you. But what made me think of this is I heard Brother Malcolm X. He said something. He said to those people, he said, y'all way in the ocean and you can't swim, but y'all worried about somebody in a bathtub that can't swim. And when I heard that shit, I never forgot it. And so for the last couple weeks, I've been looking at this thing saying stop Asian hate. And I'm going to tell you, I made this platform. I didn't make this platform to hate other races. I don't think you should hate other races. I know it's people who listen to me and they might hate white people. They might hate Asian people. They might hate Hispanic people. They might even hate black people, and they listen to this. No, that's bad learned behavior. You do not have to hate other races. This platform is to build up involuntary immigrant descendants. That's what this is for. Like I say, I look at those people as the only people of our kind in the world. I know a lot of times we get grouped into minorities. We get called African Americans. Me personally, I don't believe in none of that. I don't believe in minorities, African American. I see us as ADOS. Now, I believe we are black, yeah. There's black people all over the world, true. But I see us as American descendants of slaves. The African American thing, I don't believe we have, because a lot of us have no connections to Africa. Our ancestors were stripped of that. So it's kind of hard to say African American like everything's fair again. It's not. I have African homeboys, and I could talk to them. They could tell me about where they're from in Nigeria, where they're from in South Africa, where they're from in Egypt, where they're from in Ethiopia, where they're from. Like, I have all these different. I could talk to them. They could tell that. I can't tell you that. Make it worse, my grandmother couldn't tell you that. We niggas now, because pre-slavery we have no knowledge of where only thing we could say is Africa, and we assume that because we're black. Africa's a continent. Where we from in Africa? Until we can answer that, you can't call me African American. I'm black. I'm a person with no pre-heritage knowledge, making me a nigga. America made the niggas. But what I'm saying, for the ocean versus the bathtub theory, a lot of the stuff with the Asian hate, I applaud all the Asians for standing up. They're standing up. They're doing something great. They're standing up against people attacking them, their race. They're standing up, and they're trying to do something about it, and that's fucking great. Any people that's oppressed should stand up and defend themselves. That's the way I believe. The way you stop bullying is to fight the bully back. So if you feel like you guys are being bullied, fight back. On the other hand of that topic, I don't agree with incorporating or trying to incorporate black people in that fight, because what you're going through is terrible. But black people still have to finish their fight. And the problem with the black community is every time we go to fight You know, we try to do like the Beastie Boys. We try to fight for our right to party. And every time we do that, motherfuckers cut our music off and say, listen to this song. That's the issue. Every fucking time in the history where we went to fight for our rights as ADOS people, somebody else came with their problems. And they said, hey, we should incorporate our struggles. Nobody is saying, hey, let's fight for y'all struggle, fix y'all shit so it don't happen to us. Now, I said this on the last episode where I said, you know, a lot of immigrant people, before they come here, like, do they not know what happened in America since 1500s? Or do they think, no, that shit won't happen to us? So, to see the Asian hate thing going on, I feel like, as I said, I'm happy for them standing up for themselves. If you're a part of the little people community, right, and you're standing up for injustice to little people, I believe you should be doing that shit. You should be fighting for your people. And if you're offended by what I'm saying, fuck you. I'm fighting for my people right now. And I'm saying we only have but so much energy that we can put into fighting and so much energy that we can put into living. We shouldn't take our fighter energy and give it to other people when yet we still face injustice longer in this country than anybody. I know people say like Native Americans, but the issue with the whole Native American argument is a lot of Native Americans were slave capturers. So, fuck it. I'm out of that one. Like, no, I'm not going to say like the Native Americans had it harder. No, I'm not going to say that because a lot of Native Americans teamed up with white oppressors to oppress ADOS people. It's a fact. Look it up. It often bothers me a lot of time where black women are so ashamed to be ADOS that they're like, I got Indian in my family. Yeah, in the end, you still a nigga. Like, straight up. So, that whole thing about, like, you know, the natives had it worse. Every time in the history, but since America was made, you have different people that saying, well, we had it worse. We had it worse. We had it worse. Nobody's had it worse than the ADOS people. You can't name somebody that's been stripped of their culture, their original religion, their language beaten, and then have a whole nation built on them to 400 years later only receive 1% of the wealth. I heard someone mention in Japanese camps, they also had black people in camps. This is after slavery. They also had black people in camp. Japanese people got reparations. Black people did not. And I'm not saying that made the Japanese camps okay. No. It's fucked up to have people in camps. You know, it's fucked up to oppress people. What I am saying is that ADOS people get the shit end of the stick, and a lot of times we're told, you gotta forget about it. That was then. This is now. Well, bullshit, okay? Because I don't believe in blaming people for our down is now, right? The issue we have, honestly, in my opinion, on this day right now, is a lot of times our people are too trusting, they're too loving, and they want to fight everybody else's fight. And that's why I'm on this topic, because I don't believe in blaming racists for our issues. I believe that we a lot of times put our own issues on the back burner trying to help so many other people. We try to incorporate so many other people, and you have to focus on the weakest part. It's called a bottleneck. What's the bottleneck? What is slowing down progression the most? And we're not addressing that issue. We need to fix our issue. The first way to freedom, if you ask me, is economics. And in the 1990s was the last one that I looked at. I think black people had 1% of the wealth in America. One of the biggest minorities. I hate that fucking word, minority. Listen, if me and you were in a car, me, you, your mama, and your cousin too, we're in a car and we're like, hey, let's get something to eat, right? And me and you, your mama, say Taco Bell, and your cousin too say Burger King, who's the minority? It's the one that said Burger King. Well, guess what? Minority means fucking loser. Don't call me a loser, because it's a difference between being a loser and being cheated. Big fucking difference. So I hate the word minority. I hate the words African American. I'm black, nigga, negro. Even with them, I don't even want them no more. I'm a descendant of involuntary immigrants. So, ADOS. I prefer we be called ADOS. And I feel like we should be treated on the same standard as which the Native Americans are treated, as far as ADOS people. Not black people, not minorities, not none of that. ADOS people. But in the talk of ocean versus the bathtub, what I'm saying is you need to look at who's fucking in the most threat. Like, I've seen all these Asians getting abused by different races of people. All these Asians, it's bad. Like, I'm not saying Asians don't have it bad. Asians are getting mistreated. So are the Mexican people. So are all of these different people are getting mistreated. I ain't seen no Asians get killed by the police yet, but they're still getting mistreated. So with that being said, all I'm saying is I don't think black people should be incorporated in any other racial war until, well, I don't think you should be incorporated in any racial war at all. Let's clear that up. But I don't think you should be fighting for any other civil rights movement except your own, because yours is not fucking finished. Ours is not fucking finished. I think everybody has the right to fight for their people, for what they believe in. But I think you have to fix your house first. Like, your house is on fire and you're worried about your neighbor's grass being cut. It's a totally different ball game. Now, support is another thing, but as far as like, oh, I'm going to stand with this, I'm going to stand with that, but you can't even stand on your own. You know, it's like George Floyd was less than a year ago. So, I mean, I hope I didn't offend anybody with what I'm saying, but it's the truth. It's the fucking truth. Like, we have to get it together, and that's part of the reason why we won't advance, is because instead of fixing our shit, we're worried about everybody else. It was a quote that my cousin used to say, and it say, worry about your shit before you have no shit. Funny is he used to say that before he used to rob people, but it's a very good quote. You know, worry about your shit before you have no shit. So, it's a touchy thing, I know. And like I say, I hope I didn't offend anybody. I wish everybody the best of luck on their civil rights endeavors. And I hope one day everybody could just learn to mind their own fucking business. And I think the world will get by smoother. I wish that everybody can treat everybody like they want to be treated. If the world just started treating everybody like they want to be treated, the world would be such a better fucking place, right? But when people don't treat you as you treat them, that's when you have to demand fair treatment. And I don't feel like black people are in a position to be demanding fair treatment for everybody else except themselves. Thank you for listening. Bear with me with this one here. It's a pretty good one here. Long time ago, long time ago, there was this baby mouse and this baby snake, and they were friends. And they used to play by the river together. And they play games like the baby mouse would run through the baby snake's mouth and shit like that, and he'd run around. They just had fun. And one day, the baby mouse went back home, and the mother said, "Were you playing in that river again?" The baby mouse said, no, mother, I swear. You told me don't do it. I wouldn't do it no more. She said, why are you all wet? And he said, well, it's my friend, it's the snake. We play this game. I run through his mouth. And so it's probably just this spit in my fur. And the mother mouse was like, no, that's our sworn enemy. Please, son, listen to me. Do not play with him. Because one day, he will gain an appetite for your flesh. And the mother begged and pleaded for her son. She said, please, just listen to me. Do not. Well, on the other side of the jungle, the baby snake went home. And his mother said, with a fucked up tone. And she said, oh, my son, you're greedy. He said, what do you mean, mother? She said, how do you eat and don't save me any? He said, mother, I haven't eaten yet. She says, don't lie to me, boy. I see the mouse furs on your mouth. He says, no, mother, you're silly. That's from my friend, Baby Mouse. We play this game, and he runs around my mouth and this and that, and he runs around, and we just have fun. The mother says, you idiot. That's our food. Haven't mother always taught you don't play with our food? And he was like, mother, what do you mean? Mother says, listen, you didn't know any better. But now you do. So tomorrow, when you go play with Baby Mouse, I want you to grab him and bring him home, and we will enjoy him for dinner. And he says, yes, ma'am. So the next day, Baby Snake shows up early, and he's waiting for his friend Baby Mouse to come. And from a distance, he sees Baby Mouse. And he says, Baby Mouse, come here, come play. I have a new game I want to show you. And right then and there, Baby Mouse remembered the lesson he learned from his mom the day before. And he says, no, thank you, we can't be friends anymore. And he runs away. Moral of the story is, sometimes your fucking ancestors, your parents, they tell you shit and you may not agree with them. It might cause you to lose a friend, but it's going off of their experience. And I'm not saying 100% of the times that shit is true, because a lot of our parents, going off the last episode, they have a learned behavior, and their learned behavior can be fucking wrong. Absolutely wrong. Like Baby Snake, on the other hand, for Little Mouse's been, he could have been like totally opposite. I'm a snake that wants to be a fucking vegan. I don't want to eat this mouse. He's my friend. But sometimes cutting ties is actually a good thing, because of his decision making, Baby Mouse got to live to see another day. If he would have disobeyed his mother, Baby Mouse would have went from Baby Mouse to Sucker Duck. I'm not telling you what to do with this knowledge, but this is an African proverb. This is an African, I'm going to say, folk tale. And when I heard it, I had to give it to y'all, because I thought about all the times where, the OGs told me some shit, and I was like, man, them old niggas, they don't know what the fuck it's like now. Them niggas from the 80s, them niggas don't know what the world like now. And then I found myself in a chain gang. And then it was some shit where it was some dumbass OGs, and I listened to them. And then I found out I shouldn't have listened to them dumb motherfuckers. What I'm telling you is, always take a better safe approach for your decision makings. Especially if you out here in the streets, man. Like, they call that shit the trap for a reason. Nigga, you Baby Mouse, and you in a trap. Think about that. Blessings. When a nigga have questions, the answers will give us knowledge. But when the nigga start questioning the answers, that's when the nigga get wisdom. I want to give a shout out to brother Nuri Muhammad. He's a student of the great Minister Farrakhan, who was also a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said these things and they hit me deep, and I had to give them to you because I don't know if you listen to Brother Nuri. And if you don't, I get it. But you should, in my opinion. So I'm just an olive branch, I guess, with this message right here. He talked about aptitude, attitude, and altitude. I'll say it again: aptitude, attitude, and altitude. Aptitude, that's your ability to grasp something. Your attitude is motivation towards grasping it. And your altitude is basically the equivalent of elevating or seeing things from a bird's eye view. I'm going to say that again. Aptitude, ability to grasp something. Attitude, motivation towards grabbing it. Motivation towards grasping it. And altitude, elevation or seeing things from a bird's eye view. I'm going to educate y'all real quick. There's a place called heaven, and there's a place called hell. There's a place called prison, and there's a place called jail. Okay? And we know this. Now, sometimes, a lot of times, most of the times, we confuse prison and jail. Two different entities, man. So, the reason I said that is because we know right and wrong. And what we're going to focus on is right and wrong, right? Okay, right and wrong. But we're not going to focus on right and wrong. Bear with me, okay? So, there's something called racism and there's something called prejudice. Now, you can't have racism without prejudice, but you can have prejudice without racism. You understand? It's almost like structure versus agency, So, my bad, I'm sorry. I got ahead of the game. I know a lot of y'all like, what the fuck is he talking about? So I'm gonna dumb it down. You can have racism and you can have prejudice. Now you can have racism, but racism requires a prejudice. But prejudice does not require racism. Okay? So, give you a prime example. If you don't like black people, that's racism. If you don't like little people, in a fucked up term, forgive me, but midgets, I mean no offense to little people, I'm just using this for an example. If you say, I hate midgets, right? Not only are you offending little people, but that's a prejudice. But that's not a racist. It's not a racism. You understand? It's a big difference between prejudice and racism, even though you need prejudice to have racism. The reason I'm mentioning this is because we're talking about, like, when people say certain things, we're quick to throw racism out there. A lot of times we confuse racism with prejudice, and that's why a lot of times racism gets thrown under the bridge when it is something that might be racism. Bear with me again. Prime example. Nations are not racist. I'm not saying nations are not racist people. I'm saying nations are not racist. R-A-C-E-S. Two different bodies. So like if someone says, I don't like Americans, we say, okay, that's not racist. He's talking about the country. But a lot of times we group nations with races. So if that same person says, I don't like Africans, we assume that's racist. But it's not. Africa's a continent. It's not a race. So if someone says, I don't like Africans, he could be talking about white Africans. He could talk about Chinese Africans. Because the thing about nations is nations have multiple different races in it. There's no nation on this planet with just one race in it. Like, even China has, Africans born in it, like just black people born in it, different races born within the Chinese government, different races born within the American government, different races born within the Mexican government, different races born within the European government, different races born within the Russian government. So if someone says, I don't like Russians, we don't assume that's racist, right? We assume that's prejudice. But for certain countries, like if someone says, I don't like Chinese, we're like, oh, that's racist. But it's not. It's not racist. Now, because to sum it up for you, when you click when you go to a job application and they ask you like, what's your race? You've never seen Chinese, Mexican. It's not, because they're nations. They're nations. So it's not like click your race. They don't say African, Chinese, Russian, American. Those are nations. It just say something along the lines of white, black, Hispanic, Asian, or other, because those are race categories. So it's a big fucking difference. So someone saying something along the lines of, I don't like Mexicans, and then you're like, well, you're a racist. You will never be able to convict them person because you're charging them with the wrong charge. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is you have to charge people with the right conviction. So if someone says something like, I don't like Mexican, you say you're prejudiced. It's hard to argue that. If you say, someone says, I don't like Mexicans, you say you're racist. That's an easy thing to debunk. He's like, I'm not racist. I didn't say anything about Hispanic people. That's the difference. And a lot of times we throw that shit out there because just like the Easter Bunny and Easter, we group those two together. But we're, as a culture, not me, I don't do it, but as a culture, we celebrate Easter for the death and rebirth of Christ, right? What the fuck do an Easter Bunny have to do with that? Well, the Easter Bunny comes from a different holiday on the same day and it's kind of incorporated. But nobody stops to answer that question. Little kids at church are running around a church building picking up Easter eggs, right? Don't got shit to do with Christ. But culture and religion have came together amongst something. And we do that shit with a lot of the words that we use. So a lot of times, racism is the hardest thing to prove. And I heard this from Dr. Claude Anderson, and he gave a different example, but I'm going to give you one that's more dumbed down. If, say for instance, you're at a job, right, and you're black, and your boss fires you, right? He fires you, and you think it's because he's racist, right? He might be racist as fuck, but if he don't fire you and the rest of the black people, he's gonna beat your racist claim every time. Because, okay, I'm black, and there's 5 other black people that work at this job, but he only fired me. How is that racism? You know what I mean? And them other 5 black people, they could be, black people that hate the black race and he likes, but the thing is, how do you prove it in court? Because racism is the hardest thing to prove. It's the hardest thing to fucking prove. And the reason why it's one of the hardest things to prove is because racism is thrown out there so much. I heard a certain politician say certain things about Mexican people, say certain things about Chinese people, say certain things about people like of all different nations. And for a lot of minority people, we saw this. That's just racist. That's just racist. That's just racist. But he never called out a race. So the people on his side can easily defend that. He said nothing about a race. He's talking about from that country. So a lot of times we confuse nationalism with a race. And I actually had a conversation with a brother of mine today, and we were talking about, he said, if you say something about Chinese people, that's racist. And I'm like, no, if you say something about Chinese people, that's prejudice. If you say something about Asians, that's racist. Because the Chinese people are Asian. They fall under the Asian umbrella. And it could be someone that's like, I don't like Chinese people, right? But I like Indians. And it's a prejudice towards Chinese people, but it's not a racism, because he does not have racism towards Asians. And the same flip side, if someone says, I like niggas but I don't like Africans, that's not a racism, because this person does not have a racism towards black people. He likes some black people and he don't like the other side of black people. That don't mean he don't like black people. That means he don't like black people from here. He don't like black people. I mean, even I kind of failed you on that one, because like if he likes black people in America, he like the niggas in America, but he don't like Africans. It's white Africans, it's black Africans, it's Chinese Africans. So forgive me. So what I'm saying is, injustice comes about, in my opinion, injustice comes about racism and or prejudice, right? But you have to call a spade, right? You have to call it correct. You can't fucking call the wrong thing out, because then you leave grounds for rebuttal. I used to argue when Black Lives Matter started. My brother, he was real big on it. I'm talking when they first got the ground rolling, he was all for it. And I told him off rip, there's too many grounds for rebuttal in the name. I always personally said Black Lives Matter, their name should have been Black Lives Matter 2. Because when you say Black Lives Matter, you leave grounds for people to say, oh, you saying that's the only life that matters? Are you saying that only they matter? Are you saying they matter more than me? But if you say Black Lives Matter 2, and you argue that, well, you fucking, that's plain and simple. So it's kind of hard for outside forces like the media or whatever to flip Black Lives Matter 2. Because that's saying, hey, our lives matter just as much as yours. If you just say Black Lives Matter, that's like, okay, Black Lives Matter. And then you leave the sentence incomplete. They can say Black Lives Matter more than yours. Black Lives Matter way more than yours. Black Lives Matter. And you leave a whole fucking space there. But if you say Black Lives Matter 2, that's saying your life matters and my life matters equally. And that was my opinion. So, like I said, it's a ADOS people listen to me. IIP listen to me. If you're an involuntary immigrant, you gotta remember, we didn't make this language. They took our language and gave us this shit. So I'm like looking at a lot of the English language and I'm seeing like funny things. My Uncle Cash used to be like, he was institutionalized, right? And so like the prison system kind of, at sometimes I think it fucked his mind up, but at other times I'm like, man, fuck, that made him a genius. And I remember he said some shit when he first got out of prison. He came to visit me and I had an apartment, and he was like, you don't want an apartment, you want to get some land and you want to build a house. He was like, think about what apartment means. That means it was meant to be apart, but it's still together. Right? And I remember just busting out laughing. But then I thought about that shit later on, like, damn, apartment, it's meant to be apart. Like, you in one building and you're fucking apart, it's meant to be there. But, whatever. But he used to do that shit with a whole bunch of words, because the English fucking language is so different from everything in the world. And we have so many bits and pieces from, like, other fucking languages or whatever. But what I'm saying is the English language, our phrases, our this and that, it's easy to intertwine things, and it's easy to get caught up in a ketchup bottle with the English language, right? And so like something so simple as racism and prejudice, where, like I say, racism has prejudice, but prejudice don't require racism. And when we think of them, we always think of them together, but they're two different bodies. They're two different fucking bodies. You can have prejudice, like, look in the black community, right? Black girls might have a prejudice towards light-skinned girls. Light-skinned girls might have a prejudice towards dark-skinned sisters. Fat chicks might have a prejudice towards skinny chicks. Skinny chicks might have a prejudice towards fat chicks, right? But those prejudices do not require racism. Going back to the dark-skinned sister versus light-skinned sisters, they have the same race, right? That's no racism there. They have the same race, right? She don't hate her because she's black. She might hate her because she's darker. She don't hate her because she's light-skinned. She might hate her because she's lighter. It's a prejudice. Because you can't love your black self, and that's what it is. So, but a lot of times we mix up racism with prejudice. It's like a thing. And because we're taught them around the same time. Every time you think about from the time you're in grade school, when they go to teach you, if they teach you, but most of the time when you learn racism, you learn prejudice. You learn them together. And they kind of intertwine them in our education. But they're two different fucking things. And I personally think we should stop teaching them together. You know, because like, check this out. I can have a prejudice, right, where it's not even about race. I could be at an ATM at 3 o'clock in the morning, right, and I could be prejudiced to the other motherfucker that I see walking up. I don't even see his skin color, right? I just see a motherfucker in a hoodie. I could be prejudiced against motherfuckers in a hoodie walking up behind me at an ATM. Can't even see him, but I just see a hoodie walking up behind me and some black Air Forces. Am I racist against black Air Forces, or am I prejudiced towards what the fuck this motherfucker got on? Because I think he about to fucking rob me, you know, and that's a real deal. And I, you know, in the conversation I had with homeboy earlier, it was like, what's the difference between a president? Like, he was arguing, like, what's the difference between a president and a racist? I'm like, it's a big difference, because racism requires prejudice, but prejudice does not require racism. And, you know, not all people look alike. Not all, like, contrary to the belief, like, you're talking about, like I said, nations have multiple of different types of races within them. There's no nation in the world with just one group of people, one race of people. It don't fucking exist. Every nation, it may not be a 50-50 racial split. It may not be. It's a majority of a shitload of people clumped up in a minority, right? But there's no nation with 100% of one race of people. None. You know, I heard Dave Chappelle say, like, America has black, white, Hispanic, this and that, and China, they only have Chinese, right? And that's why I'm bringing up the Chinese. But the thing with China is they actually have black people born there. Yeah, there's different people there. They have different people there. On this side of the world, we don't really see that. We see, like, just straight Chinese people, but they have different races of people born there. Not only that, but the Chinese people themselves are different types. Chinese people themselves, but the people we stereotypically put in the Chinese category, they have different types of people there. You know, you have people that speak different languages there. They are very diverse people. Just like in America, the ADOS people are very diverse people. You know, niggas from Florida talk different from niggas in New York. Niggas in New York talk different from niggas in Cali. Niggas in Cali talk different than niggas in Texas. Niggas in Texas talk different than niggas in Florida. You know, niggas from Florida, again, talk different from niggas in the Midwest. Like, niggas all over the fucking country in the United States of America are even different. You know, it's even different. And you can't group people in one fucking category, right? The closest thing in like United States of America to grouping niggas in one category is ADOS, where you're an American descendant of slavery. You know, you are a descendant of involuntary immigrants, right? And, you know, what I'm trying to do here is, like, you know, just be selfish, egotistical maniac that Mango is, right? With this platform, I want to do that. I want to not necessarily group everybody in one category, but bring everybody together, just different minds, you know? Because, yeah, I think I got a lot of answers, But there's a nigga right now in Compton, California, and he might know a subject better than me, and he ADOS too. And he might school me on some shit while I'm schooling him on some shit, right? And at the same time, shout out to the nation of gods and earths. It might be a nigga in New York, right? Put me on the 120, you know? It might be a nigga down there in Houston, Texas, and he got something I ain't got, and I can get him something back, you know? It's just a mix. It's just a melting pot that make a great recipe within the United States. But to go into it, it's kind of fucking hard to say one is just one. Because even though it might be one, that one got variables. You know, so got a little bit off topic because it's very sensitive to me. And it's so many, it's kind of hard to stay on topic because it's so many different variables. And that's what I'm getting at. And the variables is the reason why prejudice versus racism never works. So, some would excuse me for my 20-minute rant. I hope you enjoyed it. You smell different when you're listening.